Hello, my name is Jim Apple. I will address the issue of did America want religious freedom? I will not go over the Puritans and the Pilgrims again and their search for liberty of conscience. I will devote my time on showing the struggle our 13 colonies went through to establish religious liberty. First off, we'll start off with the state churches. Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire were congregational state churches. The Church of England was in Virginia, New York, Maryland, North Carolina, and South Carolina. New York was officially intolerant. In practice, they were tolerant. You do realize toleration and liberty do not mean the same thing. There's a big difference. And that is the crux of the matter. Toleration. The state church issue began with taxes. Taxes were levied against all citizens for the support of the church, for its pastor, as well as its building. In fact, if you were we'll say a congregationalist, and you lived in Virginia, you would pay for your pastor, your church, his buildings, and your tax would be paid for the Church of England. James Madison in Virginia, when the Baptists filed a grievance about paying the 3% tax, Mr. Madison said, "Why, it's ridiculous that you even care. 3% is so little it doesn't even matter." You realize the tea tax was 3% as well as that tax. In Pennsylvania, before holding office, a person must swear, "I do believe in one God, the creator and governor of the universe, the rewarder of good and punisher of the wicked, and do acknowledge the Old Testament to be given by divine inspiration." While I adhere to each of those statements, I don't think that's a litmus test for you running for office. I believe we should have religious freedom. In 1640, Henry Dempster was the first president of Harvard University, a school in Massachusetts, a congregational state church that was in control there. After being summoned by the pastor about his newborn daughter being baptized, Mr. Dunster explained that baptism is for believers, and at the tender age of 1 month, his daughter couldn't believe anything. He couldn't have her baptized because of his conscience. He was forced to resign. Mr. Dunster was a fine man, but because of a lack of religious liberty, he had to resign. In the summer of 1651, Newport Baptist Church in Newport, Rhode Island received communication from the aged William Whitter in Boston, Massachusetts, that he wanted to hear the Word of God, the Bible. Dr. Clark, knowing that Boston was controlled by the Congregational Church and that they would be in danger, for the sake of the gospel, they went anyway. Accompanied by Pastor Obadiah Holmes and John Crandall, they began the 71-mile trip. Arriving Saturday afternoon, they had fellowship, a meal, prayer, and some talk, and determined to have Sunday services Sunday morning. Robert Bridge, the constable of that area, signed arrest warrants for the three, and shortly after the Sunday morning service began, they were hauled off to prison. Clark and Crandall, bail was paid. They were released. But Obadiah Holmes said some things that the Congregationalists felt were offensive. Several weeks later, he was given 30 lashes, the same punishment for adultery, rape, and counterfeiting. And his crime was preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. Virginia was by far the state that denied religious liberty the most vehemently. They were Church of England, so their loyalty was to England more than any other. Look up the Leland Madison marker story. The reason we have the First Amendment today is Madison's dad explained to him, "Son, you better go meet Pastor Leland, because if Pastor Leland wins our county and represents our county, Virginia may not ratify the Constitution, and son will not get another chance to do this." Mr. Madison went to find Pastor Leland and found him in the oak grove on a Saturday. Pastor Leland spent his Saturday praying and studying to preach on Sundays. They spent several hours together. When Leland came to a point and said, because Mr. Madison exclaimed to him, "I'll die fighting for your religious liberty. We'll add something to the Constitution." And that's why Leland was not a constitutionalist. There was nothing in the Constitution to grant our religious liberty. Leland realized Madison was true and honest, and he said, Mr. Madison, I will withdraw. Madison represented Virginia, and the Constitution was carried. Pastor Leland wrote articles against Sunday being a day off. Originally, the post office worked 7 days a week. Congress was arguing about giving Sunday as a day off. And Pastor Leland, in many articles he wrote, said it's wrong to give Sunday as a day off because that's preferring Christianity. You must give Saturday off for the Jews and Friday off for the Mohedans. The government does not answer for the soul of man. Man answers for his own individual soul. In 1772 alone, in the colony of Virginia, 43 preachers were deprived of their property, dignity, blood, and liberty, being imprisoned and their property confiscated. What a shame for liberty of conscience. Mr. Patrick Henry, a real firebrand, defended 3 Baptist pastors who were being tried for disturbing the peace. They preached the gospel of Christ. These men suffered publicly. Many people knew about this. Do you realize 4 of our first 5 presidents were from Virginia, this colony that persecuted Christianity? Anyone not of the Church of England were not allowed to preach. Even in their own homes, they tried to stop them. President Washington and our first four of our 5 first presidents knew about this. Patrick Henry knew about this. And I believe that has a great reason why we wanted religious freedom. But we want religious freedom for all. Jesus Christ commanded us to go after we come. Jesus invites people to come, not by force. If you'd like to read some books, American Crimson Red, Esteemed Reproach, This Day in Baptist History, will verify what I've said. Don't take everybody's word for what you hear. Do some research on your own. You're intelligent. You can do some research. I would go back to original documents. We have those. The Library of Congress is full of them. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that through McQuantico Baptist Church. Thank you for your time.